Hello, welcome to the Healthy Alternatives podcast. I am Dr. Christine Sauer with DocChristine.com. Today's show is a recording of my radio show of the same name. Enjoy! Good afternoon, this is Dr. Christine Sauer, your host of the show Healthy Alternatives, here on 97.5 CIOE FM with live stream on communityradio.ca every Thursday at 12 noon Atlantic Standard Time. Thanks for tuning in today. In this show, I will talk, mostly with guests, about all aspects of health, healthcare and wellness, from conventional to alternative and everything in between. My mission for this radio show is to help change people's lives for the better by informing them about different options to get and stay healthy and well so they can choose for themselves which option might work in their case. And if you feel you're stuck in a dark place, I want to tell you, don't give up. There is a light at the end of the tunnel for you too. Today I'm extremely pleased to be with Stephanie Goudreault, who is the best-selling author of the new book, The Great Canadian Woman. She is strong and free. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Now, tell me a little bit about your story and how you got to write in that book, which is co-authored by you. That's amazing. Tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you grew up, and what made you the person you are today.
Perfect. So essentially the story is about exactly that, how I grew up. I grew up in a small town in northern Ontario. If you guys are familiar with Ontario, it's a little community in between Timmins and North Bay. And I grew up in a town that wasn't very, advanced, right? We were all in the old ways. Things were done the old way. But my story is really about how my family, or specifically my grandfather, was very mentally abusive. And I didn't know that was not normal until I kind of got out of that small community. Mm-hmm. And growing up in that it was more emotionally abusive, a little bit of mental, but made me realize as life went on that I truly didn't know who I was. Because
Stephanie,
I would do...
Can you give us examples? Because not everybody can have a clear picture of what it means to be with somebody that is mentally and emotionally abusive. Okay. What did he say to you? Sure. How did you feel about it?
I never felt like I was the better granddaughter. I never felt like I was enough for him. So some days he would, depending on the day and the scenario, like I remember this one day I was driving down to the local town near us, and I can't even remember what it was about, but he started screaming at me for whatever reason, which to me, I still don't remember. But then he started calling me names on top of that. Like, I won't say them. I'm assuming that you guys can all have the idea you're a slut, you're a bee, you're everything.
How old were you at that point?
I had just started my driver's license, so I was probably 16,
wow.
17. Yeah, and it was like, and then, so after I was the one driving, so after I would stop answering him, because the thing with me too is I was the only one in my family who would buck back, that would say things back because I felt like it wasn't right. So we butted heads a lot because I would fight him on it, right? So as soon as, in that scenario per se, I was driving, and then I stopped because I was driving. So I wasn't answering to him. I wasn't feeding into his game. So about a few minutes later, he'd turn around and be like, so how was your day at school today?
Wow.
Like nothing had happened. And I think that was the first glimpse of realization that, wow, this is not normal. How can this even be? Like, this is impossible. Is this normal? And that's when really at 16, 17, I started asking myself the question, but that's really all I knew, right?
So at 16, 17, you woke up and said, hey, I grew up with something that's not normal. I don't really know who I am.
No, yeah, exactly. And that was kind of like the moment that I realized, like I said, that it wasn't normal human behavior, but if you look back at the family history, like my mom, my grandmother, they had been through the same thing, so they didn't know any better either. So it wasn't like they could help me on it. So by then, that would have been a few years into high school. When I got out of high school and started living on my own and needing to make my own decisions of choosing a program, what I would eat, who I would become, all I could hear was his voice of the things that I should be doing. I should be going to university. I should become a doctor. I should do better. I shouldn't be eating this. I shouldn't be doing that. And it was like, but what do I want? I didn't even know how to answer that question because my whole life I had been playing sports because I thought I thought my family would be proud of me. I played sports. I had grade A in school because I thought, wow, that's going to make him love me more or appreciate me more.
Yeah. So you basically tried to please your parents, and that's why you excelled in school. And I was the same way. I woke up around the same age, around 14, 15, and said to myself, who am I? And why am I doing what I'm doing? And it was weird. And I hear you. And it is a common theme, I think, in you young people to ask themselves the question, who am I really? Am I the product of my parents just, or am I a person of myself? What was your answer for that? How and when did you find an answer?
Oh, I think that came many years later. So I had a very supportive mother. My grandmother was very supportive. They both really encouraged me to do what I want, but that was exactly the problem, like you said. I didn't know what it was because I was never allowed to really think for myself, because in the back of my head, and I'm sure my mom's head, we were all trying to please the same man, right? We were all trying to build the family image. So I think that came in the most powerful way when I started having a lot of anxiety. I was depressed at school. I didn't like the program I was in university. It was my last year, and I had severe anxiety attacks. And I think that's really when I had to sit down and be like, wow, I was such a go-lucky, loving life type of kid. High school, the same. What is going on now? Why do I dislike my life so much? Why am I having all these anxiety attacks over nothing? Like there wasn't a real threat in my life, right? So I think that's really when the universe, as we say, really kicked me in the butt and was like, it's either you're going to face this, you're really going to look at who you are and who you want to be, not who your family wants you to be. But I wasn't listening to that intuitive nudge until I had no choice, because the way I was going down this insanely dark path of just spiraling into that mental health, right? Like into that, how do you say that? It was just a spiral into a black hole.
It's a spiral downward, and I was in that too at some point, and I call it the light in the tunnel, because you go through the darkness for so long. And then at some point there's a sudden turn and you see the light of the southern sunlight that brightens your spirit. I'm sure for you there was a crisis point too, and you were fortunate that it was earlier in your life than it was in my life. It's better when it's early because you get to do more. So tell me, how was it? What happened at the darkest moment?
I still remember this. Funnily, I guess it's pivotal moments, right? Like I would hear my whole life, oh, you'll have these key moments in your head that you'll remember when your life changed, and this was one of them. In the book, hopefully you guys will read it, but the pivotal moment for me was I got that call. So during the massive anxiety attacks and all of that, I got a call from my mom that my grandfather was in palliative care and that he had like 3-4 days to live. And that was kind of the moment of, okay, this is kind of the moment where I either need to forgive him, I either need to let it go, because if I continue, my life will just keep going the way it's going. And so on January 17th, 2017, he passed away. And to be honest, that was the wake-up call for me. That was the moment that I finally felt like, wow, I'm finally free. Like I felt like a whole bunch of weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I was looking at my family grieving, and I remember being around a table and everyone was crying, everyone was in this torment, and I was like, if I continue where I'm going right now, my life won't be the way I want it to be. It won't be joyful. It won't be fulfilled. It won't be in love, like love around me. So that was the moment, literally, that I sat there and I looked at them and I'm like, you know what? Like, I can't do these anxiety attacks anymore. I can't feel this massive anxiety all the time. I need to be me and be okay with that. And it's like in the book I write, my grandfather took his last breath and I took my first one.
Yes.
And it's like as if he gave me that strength when he passed away to just fully step into who I was meant to be.
Wow.
And so in the darkest of moments where I should have been grieving and I should have been sad and all of that, it's like as if the new version of me was born, like as if the chains had been lifted off. And that's really when I stepped into who I was meant to be.
Yeah, and that was really a courageous choice that you took at that point to actually take the challenge and become who you wanted to be. And in the second half of the show, we'll talk more about the details and how all the women should become and change, and not just women, but men also, and listen to that little inner voice that they are somebody, that they are worth. Everybody is worth.
Oh, for sure. And I completely agree.
And yes, we become people. And I remember the first book I read was by Carl Rogers. It was actually in English. I was in Germany. I was 16, on becoming a person. And when I saw that book in the library, serendipity put it in my lap. I said, yes, that's what I want.
Yeah.
So that was a very pivotal book for me. And I think we all have parallel experiences growing up and becoming a person and being who we are supposed to be, and then changing through life, still being who we are supposed to be, but becoming who we want to become, hopefully.
I completely agree.
No, that's wonderful, and that brings us to the end of the first half of today's broadcast here on 97.5 CIOE-FM Community Radio. Please tune in after the commercial break for more about how Stephanie actually became the strong and free woman she is today. Hello and welcome back to Healthy Alternatives here on 97.5 CIOE-FM or on the web at communityradio.ca. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Sauer, and today I'm talking with Stephanie Goudreault, best-selling author of the book, The Great Canadian Woman, She is Strong and Free. And in the first half, we talked a little bit about your story, Stephanie, and how you actually came to the conclusion that you wanted to be somebody else than your parents shaped you in. So I'm happy to have you back, and let's talk a little bit about the actual process, how you became a great Canadian woman.
Well, I think great Canadian woman is in all of us, right?
Sure.
And that's kind of what attracted me to the whole book series, was that asking myself, what makes me worthy, I guess, of this book? Why should I be part of this project? The Great Canadian Woman is I feel like a high title, but it's like a title that most women will look at and be like, oh no, I'm not a great Canadian woman. What are you talking about? But really, it's in all of us, right? So for me, my version of being the best or the great Canadian woman is being the best version of myself each and every day. It's thriving to become better, because as life goes on, essentially, that's kind of what we're here to do. We're just meant to discover who we are, love ourselves fully, and truly embrace the best version of ourselves. But we're not going to get there in one day. So
that is so true. And I think we'll continue to evolve and develop ourselves until the last breath.
Oh, for sure.
And I like that you emphasize that we first have to learn to love ourselves fully, because that's when we can give the love to other people.
Yeah, exactly. And most people do the opposite, right? Unfortunately, we give a lot of love to others, but we don't love ourselves.
And when I
that's
see
where I was.
clients and they tell me what they say to themselves in their thoughts, I always say, would you say that to your best friend? Oh, no, I said, it's time you become your own best friend.
And it's just time, too, to, like, take that moment, right? Like, a lot of people don't believe that it's going to be worthy to love themselves, or it's something that oh, no, it's so much more important, like you said, to love your best friend and all of that. But you live with yourself each and every day. So how can you become the best version of you for your family, for your friends, if you don't actually take that time to love yourself first?
Right. And it's the same way when you have kids and you put the needs of the kids first. Really, you have to take care of the parents first so they can then take properly care of kids.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder sometimes. So this whole issue, I guess, with my grandfather, like, I know his upbringing. I'm not going to say that I pardon him, like, I forgive him, but I'm not making excuses for him. But I know how his upbringing was, and I know what the mentality is, and I know that there was very much a lack of love in the family for yourself. Back then, right, the older siblings took care of the younger siblings. So there was never any parental guidance. The kids kind of did what they thought was right, but when your brain or your self-awareness is not fully developed, how can you properly raise a little human to properly love themselves, right? And then that is kind of passed down generations to generation. So I've always asked myself, did my grandfather really love himself, or was that really just a lash out, you know what I mean? Like of a lack of self-love, a lack of self-worth that was happening all around us, like around in our family.
No, that's a good point, and I think it happens in many families where there is a lack of love, that really the parents themselves are deficient in some way and don't love themselves enough.
I completely agree. And it wasn't until, like, writing the book and really diving back, I should say, into that feeling, that I was like, if I feel this way, how did he feel? Or how do, my family feels? Like, we've never really touched upon, nor in school, nor in my family. Okay, Steph, what would Stephanie that loves herself do? How would she feel? What would life look like for her? And I think that's the most crucial, essential feeling or value that you should have in anything that you do. If you want to build a business, have a healthier body, whatever that is, you have to love yourself first and know what you want before you can make the decision to be the best version and do the things that bring you joy. You have to ask yourself the hard questions.
Now, that is so true. And tell us a little bit about how you're feeling nowadays and how you achieved it and what you're doing.
I feel like personal growth is like my best friend. I've just been on this path since it's been probably 5-6 years now, that I'm continuously growing and I'm continuously figuring out what I want. I'm continuously trying to be the best version, because I don't think that I will ever achieve that. Like, it's a journey. Like, every day I am my best self, but is there an ultimate best self to Stephanie? I guess I'll find that out.
There's always the next level. There's always the next level.
Yeah.
And so, even the Chinese, they know from the Tao Te Ching, the Tao is a way. So the way is a goal. There's no goal. Yeah. It's a way.
No.
We call it mindfulness, but the Buddhism, everybody says be in the now. The now is a goal. The being, the be on the way. That's the goal.
And I think I only figured this out in the past few years of, like, just truly being, because even though it's been a slow process to love myself, I'm not really 100% sure if I fully love myself, because I don't necessarily show up every day the way that I show up, let's say, with my boyfriend or with my family. On social media, there's always, I feel like, this filter a little bit.
And
which tells me
we all are alike in that way. I don't think there's really women that are 100% sure that they fully love themselves, and men probably not either.
No.
That's a part of the growing process. And I love that you say it in that way. And now, what do you do for others now? I know you wrote that great article in that book, but you do way more than that now.
Now really my mission is really to be the best version of myself so that it empowers others to do the same, right?
Wonderful.
And
it's so important to inspire and uplift others and show them, yes, I was down in the dumps. I had anxiety attacks. I was very depressed, but there is a way out of it.
yeah, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think I lost my train of thought, but I think that by me doing the things that I want, like reaching the goals that I want, you know, achieving the dream of traveling almost full time, buying the house, doing all those things, it also gives permission to others, women and men, to kind of be like, if Stephanie could do it, I can do it. If she comes from a small town of 1,100 people where she's gone through this, I can do it too. And I feel like a lot of people are looking for that permission, and that's kind of where I come in, where I fully give permission to people. If they tell me their dream is to be NASCAR drivers, I will support them regardless. I'm not going to think it's ridiculous. I'm not going to judge them. And I think that comes from just me wanting to be me and allowing others to do so as well.
No, that is really wonderful what you said there. To not judge others. And that's the hardest thing. I know my own parents were extremely judgmental, and I'm still struggling myself with the fact that it's in my mind, it's engraved. I have to actively fight myself not to judge others, because my mind is like my mother always saying, that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. and I say to myself, that's ridiculous. It is what it is.
But being self-aware is the best thing, though.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important, and I'm glad that you're doing that. Now, when anybody wants to contact you, how they can get in touch with you?
So I'm revamping my website right now, but I'm definitely on all social medias. Stephanie Goudreault, the way that it's written, I'm sure you're going to see. Should I spell that out?
Yeah,
it's
spell it out, because for non-French people, it's a little hard to spell.
So Goudreault is spelled Goudreault.
And Stephanie with a PH.
PHANIE at the end. I like to say the regular way of writing things, but truly I don't know if that's the regular way of writing things. But
I don't know anymore what's regular, normal. Sometimes it's just common, and they declare it's normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, so they have to look your name up on social media, and that's where you are. I know you have a nice website, a nice Facebook page, so in your name. So go for it and connect with Stephanie, send her a message, and I'm sure she messages you back.
Yes, of course. I love communicating and connecting with people.
No, that's wonderful, and that's a nice thought to bring us to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for being my guest today, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
And please don't hesitate to contact me with any questions, thoughts, comments, or suggestions. Or if you'd like to contact Stephanie and forgot how to spell her name or how to get her Facebook page, just my email here is Christine, Christine, @communityradio.ca, or contact me through my website, docchristine.com. That is docchristine.com. And I'm always grateful for any feedback. I also want to extend a special thank you for today's producer, Cecil Wright. You're the best. You might not know this, but this is a volunteer-run non-profit radio station. And we even have an art gallery if you're local and you'd like to drop in. We are at 11 Glendale Avenue, Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. Thank you all for listening to Healthy Alternatives. I'm your host, Dr. Christine Sauer. Tune in next Thursday at noon on 97.5 CIOE-FM Community Radio with live stream on communityradio.ca for the next episode. Goodbye and have a great day.